Okay, let's talk about the topic, correlation between devices across client side. And the first thing I want to mention, this is a real use case from a real customer. We did engage quite recently. And in this type of situation, customer is a network provider, which provide a network for multi-tenant environment. Multiple clients are using switches, routers, and core switches. So this this presentation will talk about how we did manage to implement some benefits in this environment. All right, going further. So it all starts with a property. We can have a property. It can be a school, a hotel, a hospital, some sort of huge building. And this building most likely will have a lot of network components. Like in order to enter the building from the outside network, there will be a firewall. The next will be a core switch, which is very responsible about delivering communication to other floors. And then in each floor, there can be some sort of edge switch. And then maybe in each floor, there are departments, and the department can consist with some workstations, laptops, printer. And then just to feed the network for the printer, we can have a router. So in this presentation, we will talk about when something goes down, how to prioritize, how to see which client has something very offline. Going further, so the vision for the project is to see per client, what's the damage, how many devices are down. If the router is down, that's maybe not a big deal, but if some switch or if a core switch is down, then that's absolutely disaster. Most likely the client cannot access anything inside the internet. So some general vision can be, we need to have only one message which describes how many devices per each category are down, router is down, switch is down, and if the switch is down, then it will suppress some routers automatically. So here are few trigger examples. So only one can be in the problem state, and which will indicate what is the problem with the property. So in order to run this solution, we have to have some prerequisites. And the first prerequisite is we need to put all client devices inside the same host group. Here in the screenshot, Riga block 7. So this is a property. And in the same time, the second prerequisite is that each host object must have a macro with the name property underscore host underscore group, which will match exactly the same host group we did configure in the first step. So this is a mandatory thing. Host group really equals the macro value. Going further, the next prerequisite is we will need a virtual host. Per each client, we need a virtual host. We call it a dummy host because no monitoring is executed. It will mainly operate with the data, which is already in the database. And the last prerequisite is at least one passive check must be running towards devices we monitor. And let me elaborate on this, what I mean by passive check. When a passive check is executed, we reach out a device. And as a result, if the passive check succeeds, it will generate these availability icons. If it succeeds, then a green icon comes. If it fails, if the device is down, it will print this red SNMP type of icon. And the thing is, we have actually built in techniques how to read the color of icon. I like to say the color, it's very touchy, and but it's availability of the icon. And we have these two items. The first one reads the color of the ZBX, and the second one is reading the color of SNMP. If the color is red, then as a metric, it will report 0, and later on, we will do some magic with these zeros. Let me continue. So what will happen here, each category, each type of device will have a very own template, like passive firewall, passive router, passive core router, passive switch, and router. And these dedicated templates, instead of reporting 0, which means down, they will start to generate some numbers. And the router will generate 1. If the switch is down, it will generate 100. If the core switch is down, then it will be 100,000. And 1 million for the firewall. And maybe you look at screen, you think it's something something with the binary stuff, and trust me, it's not related to the binary thing at all. These are integers. These are decimal numbers. I'm just writing here additional zeros on the left side just to give another sense for the later. Because we will do some aggregation. So yeah, we have templates here, and each template per each device type reports a very specific number. And it's implemented by using simple JavaScript, like this line here, where I'm pointing at. So by one line, we can tell if the received value, if the color is red, then report 10,000, 100,000. Okay, and what will happen further? An aggregation is happening. We are having this dummy host, and it will aggregate together all the metrics which has reported for all devices. And again, this is not related to the binary, not at all. Just because this use case on screen, let's imagine this client is having exactly one router, one switch, core switch, and firewall. But if this client will have two switches, like this object represents switch, and both switches will go down, then it will be 200 at the total, and it will result in here, it will be a real decimal number. Now it looks like a binary number. And that's it. Now we can really hook up triggers directly on this calculated item. And if the number is bigger, if this integer is bigger, most likely it means it's more damage to the client, core switch is down or firewall is down. And it will really indicate the stuff. And this type of thing, if we want to hook up a trigger directly on the calculated item, it will require some knowledge of the algebra, but we can still manage to accomplish a lot of things. But to provide some conveniences, we can have also, we can split this calculated value back into the items, which really describes how many devices are down, how many routers are down, how many switches are down, how many core switches are down. So we will have one calculated item and 4 additional items which we can use inside the trigger logic, and we can start to create some additional things to cover the use case we really want to cover. Okay, what else? Flapping is also a thing in the network. If some device goes offline, then it comes back online. It would be great to determine this flapping. And no elegant solution here, but we can have a quite good workaround to detect the flapping. And in order to solve this problem, we can duplicate these 4 items and having like additional 4 items, and these additional 4 items will have discard unchanged as a second pre-processing step, or as a last pre-processing step. And so these items will really monitor already how the device count is changing for the client. And all we need to do is count how many values are coming from the last 24 hours. And that's it. It will really tell these type of flapping situations, and we can really detect when some devices are really like disconnected from the wire. Okay, that's it for the solution. But let's talk about the concept of the nested templates. It's quite mandatory for the scope of the project to recap the concept of the nested templates. If we install a stock 5.0 installation, we will have some sort of Cisco solution how to monitor Cisco switches and routers by the help of Cisco operating system. And in order to apply this solution, we really need to have a separate parent which will tell this is for the core switch, this is for the firewall, this is for the edge switch, and it will be more templates. And what we will do, we will attach this module which reads the color of the icon. We will attach the module right exactly to this level 3. So we have a solution how to monitor the device, and then there is a module in the same time who reads the icon. And as a one suggestion from my private opinion is we can have the 4th layer exceptions for the client. I think when we have 4 layers, it will suit us well for a long run. For example, if one client tells like, I want a very specific threshold for all my switches, or for all my core switches, then we open one template, adjust the threshold in one place, and that's it. And if we don't have 4 layers, then we need to use mass update. It's still like doable in 1 minute. Select a bunch of hosts, click mass update, and says and install what is the threshold. But if we have 4 layers, I think it will cover every type of situation. And here in the slide, type multiplied by solution. If all devices are Cisco vendors, then it will be less templates. But if you have different type of vendors which really require different templates, how to capture the monitoring, then we will really need to multiply. Like here are types, switches, core switch, router. And if there is only one solution, iOS, then 1 multiplied by 3, it's only 3 templates. But if we have iOS and another, like 2 solutions, then we will need at least 6 templates to cover these calculation for all the calculated, like to feed the calculated item. Okay. That's it for the topic. If you want to see more, just enter blog zabbix.com and search correlation. And there is a downloadable template, one XML file, which will consist with 6 modules. So 4 modules to apply on the actual device. You don't need to modify any of these modules except the last one, property. This template will have this host macro. You need to set what is the name of the host group per client. And then we need just create one virtual host, add the very first template, and it will do the aggregation automatically. It will tell how many routers are down, how many switches down, and if more important device is down, it will automatically suppress the smaller devices, and as a result, there will be only one trigger in the problem state. Okay, that is it for the presentation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Aigars. A couple of questions. I will also leave some questions in the Q&A section that you can attend later on after we're done answering these questions live. But first, so why would I use this sort of approach instead of, for example, global correlation?
Quite a good one. So when we run global correlation, there is always rules: close old problem and close new problem. And in terms when some root cause is on board, then all the consequences, they will ping the monitoring tool all the time, and it will result like it will generate +1 event every 5 minutes, and we can end up with the millions of events inside the database, and then the user experience really like sacrifice, and it will be bad. And yeah, that's the like quite some downside if we don't have a cron job which frees up the events table of these correlation rules. Then in long run that can really like create a big influence on the server.
A few more questions. So how does this work if the site has more core routers, switches, firewalls in a site? What about other vendors than Cisco?
It goes down to the template thing I mentioned. If we have different solution, it will be +1 template per each category, like router, switch, core switch. It will really be +1 template, like more templates, but all the child models are like remaining untouched. That's good thing, but we will always operate some higher level to create this great template tree, and we will assign the solution, including this module which reads the color of icon. We will attach one template to one type of device.
Okay, thank you. Could you maybe elaborate a bit on the calculated items? What are the limitations for those? How many categories, for example, we can use and things like that?
Yeah, when we aggregate together the status of all devices, we have this calculated item. In my presentation, it was there was like 7 digits in my example. And just because the firewall can be like 1 or maybe 9 firewalls at maximum, and core switches can also be 9 at the maximum in my example. But the limit is 19 digits. It is like the value of a 64-bit integer. So we can have even more classifications to aggregate together the counts of all those devices.
Okay, thank you a lot, Aigars. As I said, there are still a couple of questions in Q&A section, so feel free to take a look at them. I think it will be better to answer them textually since they're a bit more complex. Take a look at them, please, after we are done with this Q&A. Yes, thank you.